Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. Joining me in Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder.
It's me and my dog. I don't know if we're recording the video of this one.
Yeah,
This is my dog.
video's recorded.
um, Good to be
What's the
back. I
dog's
saw
name?
you. This is Daisy. Daisy has
Hi,
anxiety
Daisy.
issues, but she stopped her crying and she's gotten a little bit better with that. But she still likes to sit with me sometimes because my parents are not home and my brother has his door closed. And so she's got to be with somebody, and I'm the only option.
Makes sense.
When my parents leave, if I have my door closed, like as they close the door, she will throw herself at my door with the force of 1,000 suns. Like, just like bash into it, trying to kick it down.
My dog Sasha always tries to position herself in between me and my wife. Like, if we're on the couch, she wants to sit between us. She doesn't want to
That's
sit on
funny.
like the one side. Right now, I'm in my office. My wife's down in hers doing stuff. So Sasha is alternating between right outside my office door and the guest bedroom, which is like located between the two of us. So just bouncing back and forth.
Well, Daisy's been a little bit of trouble because my mom, well, she likes to sit on people's laps, like in between people's legs, basically. My mom tore her ACL a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
no.
And so she's like, Daisy, stop, like, stop jumping on my legs, basically. Um,
Is that going to take her out for the rest of the her women's pro am season?
I don't think she's gonna make a return. She told me she was out for the year.
Yeah.
She had some knee pain, and then like the one wheels, like
Yeah.
and so my dad rides those around. My dad had already fallen off of it earlier, like earlier in the year, and broken his collarbone and 6 ribs. And so we decided that we should keep riding it. So my mom was riding it, and then she stepped off of it and tore her meniscus and her ACL and sprained her knee.
Dang, is that going to violate the terms of service on her contract with her team?
With her Param team. But we'll see. She's in good shape. She already is very active with yoga and whatnot, and so her recovery should be speedier than the average
Okay.
50 year
Okay.
old woman. So I think she's in good shape, but it'll be a long road to recovery.
Hope to see her back on the court. Hopefully she can keep up the jump shot, keep cashing
Hmm.
them threes.
Hope so.
Well, we're back here to discuss the top 251st through 275th player. Aaron, is there any part of your mind that thought we would ever make it this far?
Of course, absolutely. We did the first. I think we did the first 50, and I'm like, we're getting to 500. Like we're getting to 500. I know we're getting to 500. That's been the well, because Slam Magazine has their top 500, and I'm like, I want a top 500. Like I want
They
to do
do.
that because at that point, it's like you can make a top 10 list, you can make a top 20 list. Find someone's top 500 list. I dare you. If I've find, yeah, there it is. 500 greatest players of all time with um some interesting picks. A couple, I think they missed somebody. I forget who. We always talk about this. Some Laker.
It's either Norm Nixon or Gail Goodrich.
Yeah.
I can never remember which one because they're the same person in my mind. It's like the other guy for West or the other guy for Magic.
I've seen people do like top 1,000 lists, but it's always like matrices. It's like
Yeah.
equations. I don't think anyone on God's green earth has sat down and taken the time we have to make a list like this. If it gets to 500.
We'll get there. All right. And I want to say this at the beginning of the podcast. I always say it at the end, and then I regret it. Email us, hoopstemple@gmail.com. The sliver between these players, very thin. If you have a good case for why someone we ranked 260 could be better than someone we ranked 235, it's probable that we just missed something. I've appreciated several of the thoughtful responses we've gotten. Um, give us your takes, give us your thoughts, and I'd love to hear them and reconsider. It's something we look at and reevaluate over the off season. So please email us hoopstemple@gmail.com if you got a take.
Please. So
With
we have 5 positions, 5 nominations from each position. Those nominations are Mookie Blaylock for the point guards, World B. Free for the shooting guards, Andre Iguodala for the small forwards. The power forwards bring us Horace Grant. And the center is Vlade Divac, who we only did one center in the last portion. With whole 25 guys, just a single center. But Vlade will probably get picked up pretty quickly here.
very strange to not talk about centers as much. Um, the highest guy on my board left from last time around was World Beat free. I know it's empty stats. It's a lot of high volume counting with very little uh, winning attached to them. But I just think that's where we're at this list is someone who can get you 25 points per game for 8 years, even if the team is like a mid 30 win team.
We say good stats, bad team, but at this point, it's hard to get good stats. Good stats are still an accomplishment. From 77 all the way to 86, Free is averaging 23 points and 4 assists on 46% shooting, upwards of 29 points per game in 79, and 30 points per game in 80. So there is really great scoring years.
Yeah. And I kind of went and looked year by year who his best teammate was. In 79, he's a 43 win team with Randy Smith on the 79 LA Clippers. Right? I didn't mark down if they were Clippers or LA at that time, but it's
Was
the
it San
Clippers.
Diego?
It probably was
Oh,
San
San Diego.
Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
He the next year his best teammate is Freeman Williams. Do you have any Freeman Williams takes?
I do not have a
No.
Freeman Williams take.
No. You want to talk about how his late Cavs tenure where he's averaging 25 plus? It's Roy Hinson for 2 years. He's got Cliff Robinson as the second best player in Cleveland one year. He's got old Scott Wedman. Like, I mean, probably the best guy he gets to play with is Bernard King pre Knicks tenure. And like, it's not a lot, but if we are we comfortable locking him in at 251 then?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Or,
Even like in 1980, the Clippers win 35 games, which is pretty good for Clippers years. It's pretty high for the Clippers, and he's
yeah.
getting 30 a night. It kind of reminds me of like Bradley Beal, where he's having these crazy scoring seasons. Well, the teams aren't great. I do respect the fact that they aren't like the worst team in the league, and they're definitely winning games because of Beal, because of Roby Free.
With World off the court or off the lists, that brings up Michael Redd as our next highest shooting guard, sniper from Milwaukee. I don't want to go Michael Redd yet. Do you have a nomination for 252?
252. I had Horace Grant, one-time
Okay.
All-Star, four-time All-Defense, four-time champ, and some real contributions to those titles. The Bulls' first three-peat, and the reason like they struggle to win without obviously without Michael, but like they struggle to win when Michael comes back in 95 is they really lack that presence inside that Grant brought them. Um, in 91, 92, 93, it's 34 minutes a night, 39 minutes a night, 39 minutes a night. He's about 12 points, about 8 rebounds. He's always out there. He's such a good defensive presence. He controls the glass on title teams.
And those are playoff minutes and rebounds. Regular season, slightly fewer minutes, slightly higher rebounds, slightly lower stakes. But from 91 to 94, we're talking 14 points and 10 boards. I had him as one of my next two. Very similar case. I had him and Andre Iguodala.
Mhm.
Very similar case of like high level impact to winning, being that bench guy off the Warriors. Um, I'm interested because I think you can make the case that Horace Grant is contributed more to winning in those seasons. He played a lot more. Iguodala's coming off the bench, but I think Iguodala also has that like he has the stretch where he is a higher level player. Those early Philly years, kind of before moving off to Denver and then Golden State. Is the higher contribution why you went with Grant first?
Basically, yeah. I think it Grant's best years, you're looking like 39 minutes per game in the finals. Like he's always out there. Plus, 42 minutes per game in the finals for Orlando. Like he goes straight from Chicago to another finals team. He is contributing more to winning than Andre Iguodala. And at that point, like the Philly years, I'm not that interested. It's not going to sway me.
Fair enough. All right. Would you at least accept Iguodala as 253?
I would, and he actually was my next guy.
Perfect. Our savior from the aliens, 253. Horace Grant, 252. That introduces to our top of the list David West for the power forward position and John Drew, the Hawk, to our small forwards position. I'm not going to lie to you. I am very interested in just a run at power forwards. It's right here.
I could see that being the case. You have some really great ones. Just one second.
While Aaron takes care of his dog, just so the listeners know, this is not a wonderful West Coast IPA, although it is a wonderful Michigan brewery. This is orange juice because I am sick. So if you see me drinking, I'm just drinking a giant glass of orange juice.
Just orange juice.
A little bit of cough syrup in there, some vodka to make it go down. Yeah, okay.
No, it's just orange juice. Nate is sick.
All right. So my run on power forwards is I'd like to nominate David West this tier. Long time contributions to winning, multiple different eras where he's contributing. That Hornets team with him and Chris Paul and Tyson Chandler, he's arguably like the secondary scorer. Like,
yeah, he's the second best player on those teams.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's him, Paul. I don't think Chandler's quite at the level that he gets to later, and then Peja is also like a little bit on the downward hill. And they're making good playoff pushes. And then he gets to Indiana, where he's more of like guy 3 or 4 behind Hibbert and Paul George, but they're competing against the Cavs, and he's playing big minutes.
The Heat, right? Playing like the Heat in the conference finals.
Yeah, I knew it was LeBron. It's against LeBron.
One of those LeBron years, yeah.
Who cares where LeBron is? It's LeBron.
He's competing against LeBron James, yeah, basically.
Yeah, and then provides some serviceable bench minutes at the end of his career towards the Golden State Warriors and picks up those 2 rings there. It's a not dissimilar to Andre Iguodala case, a little bit less of the rings and a little bit more of the pre-ring high-level play, but that's my nomination. In my mind, it's him or Mookie Blaylock.
Okay, let's do West. I was a big fan of West.
I know you're a big Blaylock guy, and I'd be interested in the case there too.
Yeah.
All right. If we lock in West, do you want to make a case for Blaylock? Do you like Zach Randolph, who is our new guy off the board?
Z-Bo is pretty interesting. I think I do want to do Blaylock just because you get about 900 games, 13 years of elite playmaking, shooting, and defense. He's taking a ton of threes. He's hitting a lot of threes. It's inconsistent, but it's also the 90s. 2.3 steals per game for a career and 2 steal titles. Looking at his steals per game, it's the 5th highest average. He's 14th all-time in steals. I'm just going to read this. From 1991 on, he's 6th in steals per game, then 4th, then 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 10th, 5th, 2nd. He's always just such a disruptive point of attack defender. And while his offense really struggles come playoff time, he's still playing 40 minutes a night. Like, whether the team, they were right or they were wrong on this, his teams wanted Blaylock out there the whole game for his passing and for his defense.
Yeah. 2-time all-defensive first team, 4-time all-defensive second team. I think this is a really good case. Although when you said that many games, I also just got to look. Zach Randolph is 1,100 games. Like, we're moving away from the peak guys. No one at this point has a high enough peak, really. Yeah, I guess we got a couple of guys with a pretty high peak, but we're not having guys whose peak makes a large enough impact in the league to outweigh some of the longevity of some of these guys out here. Like,
I think Z-Bo is the right pick after that.
Well, it's really interesting because once Blaylock's off the board, we have James Silas we have Mike Conley as our next point guard on the board, and so we can have a little bit of a Conley or Z-Bo. Who do we think contributes more? And I might be tempted to go Conley.
I actually do kind of like Conley now that you mention it. The Utah days kind of set it apart. The thing about Z-Bo, it's like the first bit is Jailblazer stuff. Like, he's not, the numbers are there, but his Memphis days are so much better because he puts it together on how to be like a savvy veteran or just contribute to winning, where he really struggled with off the court stuff, and just those are some messy teams. And like he has his Nick tenures, Nick days. Those teams are like the worst team in the entire league. And so the numbers are like, man, 20-10 for 13 years or something. Like he averages double figures from 2004 to 2018. A lot of that it has other layers to it that make it just less valuable.
Mm-hmm. And kind of in the last episode, I was talking about being a third guy for a championship team. Z-Bo is kind of more like a fourth guy because you got him, Mark, and Mike Conley, and I think he's guy 3 out of them, and they weren't able to win. So I think you need to have another guy there, which pushes him down to guy 4. And I think that's just where the shifts are. It kind of where we're getting to is we're looking at the 4th best players on teams as opposed to the 3rd best now. And I think Mike is really just the Mike is the 2nd best player in Memphis as far as I'm concerned, behind in Marc Gasol. So maybe a little bit less of a run on power forwards than I thought, but now I'm ready for the power forward run.
Did we not just do that?
No, we did one power forward. I'm ready to talk
We did
about
Weston. You want to talk about
we did
Twan?
Grant, West. Yeah, I want to talk about Twan. I want to talk about Oakley.
Yeah.
Are we cool with locking in Zach Randolph at 257?
I had Conley
Okay.
256, Randolph 257, and a little Antoine Walker. You've always been a bigger Walker guy than me. But I've come around. I think part of it's like his efficiency is so awful. But at the time, in like 2002, if you could get 20 points on any efficiency, it was like, dude, that's a pretty elite scorer. Like we're really churning out some offense here.
And listen, he put up a ton of threes, not with great efficiency, but at a volume that teams responded to and had to respect, which did open up the floor and create some spacing for the rest of his teammates. There's a reason why Boston goes to the Eastern Conference Finals with him and Paul Pierce. And then his late career contributions to winning. He starts all 23 games for the 06 Heat and is playing 37 and a half minutes a night. Like,
and think
the
about
numbers
spacing with Dwayne Wade and Shaq. I mean, those guys aren't shooting at all.
Yeah. You needed him out there. Man, are we just in agreement then? Is he 258?
258, and then we'll talk about Oakley.
God, we're gonna get all the way to 300 today if we keep going this smooth. I think the Oakley case is very similar to the Horace Grant case. He doesn't win, but like you can't tell me that Oakley and Horace Grant are that dramatically different of players, right?
No, that's crazy though. That Oakley has no rings. I associate him with winning championships, but just kind of misses it. He leaves Chicago right beforehand. The Knicks never get there, but this is gnarly longevity. This is crazy longevity, and like being tall and good at defense gets you really far. Like you're gonna play for as long as you'd like to. Oakley and Michael Jordan play together in 2003. They're teammates on that team. That's crazy.
They're teammates in '86 and they're teammates in '03. That's wild.
Yeah. With Oakley, like the Knicks are such a good defensive team, some of the best defensive teams in the league with 94, 93, like top 10 in a relative defensive rating. And while they have Ewing and they have like Starks and stuff, so they have good defenders all around, and that's what it takes to have a top 10 defense of all time. Oakley is such a huge part of that. 1,200 games, almost 1,300 games of like 10 points and 10 rebounds. That's winning basketball. That's some guy you really want in your team. And while he never gets to the championship, like looking at his total playoff series played, it's 29 and in 14 playoff series won. Like he's always in the playoffs, always giving minutes to good teams.
Yeah. I mean, this is where we're at. Players in this tier are so similar that I don't think that there's a thing I could point to with Horace Grant and say Horace Grant's ability to do X or Y set him so far apart from Oakley that if you flip the two, you're either not winning rings in Chicago or anything else. Like I think they're that close. And Grant is a little bit more of a switchable defender, which I think was really nice in Chicago's schemes, especially the earlier years. He is much more versatile than I think we give him credit for, where he can guard some guards and some fives. Like, we don't think about it that much. I don't know that Oakley could ever do that, but yeah, Oak at 259 just makes perfect sense to me. We burned through 10 guys real quick, so I'm just gonna read out what we did because that was the fastest I think we've ever moved through them. 251 World Be Free, 252 Horace Grant, 250. Can't do this. Read out the name. 251.
Yeah, the number and the
World
name
Be...
is still too much. Go ahead.
World Be Free, Horace Grant, Andre Iguodala, David West, Mookie Blaylock, Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, Antoine Walker, Charles Oakley. That leaves us with James Silas as a point guard, Vlade Divac as our center, Michael Redd as our shooting guard, John Drew as our small forward, and the next power forward up to bat is Rudy LaRusso.
Rudy LaRusso, great accolades, 5-time All-Star, first team all defense, but one all defensive selection. Let me check on not second team all defense, but I believe that's the first year they had it, 69.
It is.
Yeah, and so who knows? And he retires really young. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. LaRusso has his best scoring season, or his second best in his last year. He's 31. He's an all-star, 20 points, 8 boards. And he's like, yeah, I'm done. I think I'm good. I mean, that's the era, though, the, like, if you wanted to, like, start a family, like, yeah, right, like, let's, like, I need to focus on my carpentry business and really make some real money. That was kind of you had to make that decision.
Yeah. Well, he has an interesting stint where he's traded from the Lakers in 67 to the Pistons, and he's like, nah, fuck that. I'm not moving to Detroit. I'm gonna retire and do something else. And then the Pistons eventually say, all right, well, we'll sell your rights as a player to San Francisco. And when he was with the Lakers, he's like a consummate team player. He's behind in West and Baylor, and he's just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be a part of this team. I will care about winning. And then he gets to San Francisco and he's like, you guys all suck. I'm now the best player here. And that's why you see that scoring spike at the end of the career.
They're pretty good Warriors teams. Like his final year, they get to 41 wins. It's him and Jeff Mullins and Nate Thurman. Like they're out on this team. Like there is talent to go around. But are you ready for LaRusso? I had one guy ahead of him.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I have quite a few guys ahead of him.
Well, sorry. I had more guys ahead of him, but I had one specifically in mind. Is it Vlade Divac time? Can we finally talk about a center?
110% Vlade Divac time.
Let's go. With Vlade, you get over 1,100 games of 12 points, 8 boards, 3 assists. He just fit into winning basketball really well. Like centers that rebound well are just huge and defend the paint, but his passing really made the Kings so much fun. Also, like playing with Magic and early on, like going to finals and stuff. And his shot blocking ability combined with his passing made him not just an effective player, but a lot of fun to play with. Like guys liked playing with Vlade because he got them involved. He wasn't just a black hole of a center.
Yeah, those early Kings, the 2000s Kings team ran like a variation of a high post Princeton offense where you either put Vlade or Weber there, and then you have a lot of screen actions, guys cutting around him. And it's like, it's not dissimilar to what the Warriors do, where they'll throw the ball to the high post and have Curry and Clay kind of cut around on the post. And now the Warriors are doing it to set up the guards. The Kings were doing it because their better passer were these big men. Not taking anything away from Bibby or Jason Williams, but like that's just how the Kings offense was get it to the big in this high post back to the basket, not really looking to score, but looking to find the guy that gets open. And Vlade is a perfect piece for that. I think 260 is a really good placement for him.
I think so too. Our next center is Alvin Adams, who I'm kind of interested in. I don't know if you're interested in him too.
I know you love Alvin Adams.
I do.
I'm not. I'm not too interested, but I'm also like,
Are you
we've
really
gone.
interested in the other guys?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying here. Is I think the drop off. I hate to say it, but like, there's a drop off right after we finish with Julius Randle at 250. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
World Be Free at 251. We're now into like, hey,
we're sickos now. We're
maybe you have
sickos. We're fucking
2 All-Star
weirdos.
selections, and if you do, it's probably early 50s. You got any more than that, but like,
Yeah,
we're into the best non-All-Stars and the like the one-time guys. Who's next highest on your board?
it's Alvin Adams. I have Adams. With him, you're getting a very similar like Divock case. It's a good scoring center that can defend the rim and is a really good passer. That first season, although it's weird that he peaks as a rookie, it's 19 points, 5.6 assists, 9 boards with a steal and a half and a block and a half. But the biggest thing is they go to the finals that year. He's just crucial in that. Averages 23 points, 10 boards, and almost 5 assists in the finals. I think he's the only player left we could ever say in that finals, had his team won, he's the finals MVP. He would have been. He would have been for sure.
Magic.
And they go on to make the conference finals in 79, again in 84, though it's a smaller role. But it's the same team for 13 years and it's solid production. You see the playoff performances, finals performances. I'm all in.
Yeah, they're a 50-win team for 4 seasons with him there. I did just want to say Magic Johnson was a rookie who did win Finals MVP. So we
What do
you
we
said
say?
Alvin Adams. You said Alvin Adams would have been the only rookie to win Finals MVP.
No, I'm saying at this point, this is the only player who it's a weird requirement, but had their team won the finals, he would
Yeah,
have been fine. We're not
yeah,
seeing big enough finals performances from this
from
caliber of
anyone
player
else.
going forward. So, um,
I think that's as good a case as any that we have at this point here. There's some older guys that have really strong seasons. Doug Moe's coming up in the small forwards, but that's super early ABA stuff. Um,
super early.
yeah, if we lock Alvin Adams in at 261, that brings up Brooke Lopez as our next center. I don't love Brooke next. How do you feel about James Silas? I know he kind of free fell in our last episode where we bumped him back in the point guard rankings,
We're
but
getting to 300 for sure. For sure. Silas is my next guy, just powering through this.
Silas, it's 2 awesome ABA seasons as the league's falling apart in 75 and 76. 26 points, like 5 assists, 1.5 steals, but like top guard level stuff. He is all ABA team over a very young George Gervin because he's kind of the better Spur. He's known as Mr. Late, Mr. Fourth Quarter, the Snake, Captain Late, because he's the guy that just does it for you in the end. Really high field goal percentage for a small guard that it isn't shooting threes in this time period. So like he's attacking the basket well. We have the NBA ABA merger, and he just gets a couple of really bad. I want to say they were quad injuries. But 77 and 78, he's playing 22 games, 37 games, and then he bounces back a bit at age 29 through age 31, where he's contributing to winning again and helps the team make the conference finals in
Hmm.
79. I think we have that high peak, and then
Yeah.
kind of 2 years of what if because of the injuries, and then we get to kind of see hey, if there weren't for the injuries, that peak probably translates, and he does well post it. So I like him
Yeah,
here at 262.
absolutely. I think that's the right call. With him, it's a third place MVP finish in 76 for the ABA. I forget who that's behind. I think it's gotta be behind Dr. J, and I forget the second guy. Is McGinnis? Was that the co-MVP year? I totally forget. No, McGinnis
No,
had jumped
McGinnis.
already.
Yeah, let me grab those shares here. Um, it's a three-way tie, which
Mm.
Irving gets 32 votes, Bobby Jones gets 1 vote, David Thompson gets 1 vote, and James Silas gets 1 vote.
That's good though, right? That's company. It's first team All NBA, and the one person was like MVP James Silas. Put it
That's
down.
let me see the ballots here. Is this
Yeah.
is
That's
this the
one
San
San Antonio
Antonio
writer. Yeah.
Chronicles? Yeah.
I think
Oh,
either way, Silas has a really great case to be a top 5 player in the ABA that year. And there's a lot of talent in that league. So I think
yes.
the high end talent is good enough for that really matters. But our next point guard after Silas is Freddie Lewis, the 3-time All Star and 3-time ABA champ with the Pacers.
And you told me you were watching some Freddie Lewis highlights to prepare for today.
That's true. He had
Wanna
mean pull up jumpers, man. They were taking threes like the modern game. Like Lewis pulled threes in the finals, like you'd see today. I really see that translation to today's game, but me and translating to wins back then. Taking like
Mhm.
in '72, he took 1.3 threes a game, and at that point, like the 3-point line is brand new to everybody because the ABA is bringing this in.
It's
His ability to
it's
space the
actually not.
floor and
They're
say again,
it's actually not
isn't the
brand new.
NBL? It's
There's
brand new enough where it's like, I mean, Freddie Lewis is he's born in
yeah,
1943, so he didn't grow up with it, is what I'm saying. Like, to be like, okay, like we can shoot these now is a really different thing.
so there's I found this out in the last 6 months. I'm trying to remember what the league is, but it's like the it folded into the Eastern Basketball League, which folded into the Continental Basketball League, which eventually became the G League. Um, but it was a league that had an African American owner in the '60s and invented the
Hmm.
three ball and had like a bunch of like the top African American talent that then came into the NBA after a year or two. Um, but it was like the super progressive league that just got steamrolled, basically once like the NBA started accepting more African American and players into it, like once the kind of silent quota ended. So I really wish I could remember the name of the league, but it they had the 3-point line like 4 years before where the ABA came into play. So I think that's interesting um, that never gets credit for it, and also with it being such a quote unquote black league at the time, to have these African American players and the highly African American ABA come in and then have these guys be like top 3-point shooters. I don't know. I think that's an interesting correlation. So, are you
That is
interested?
some really in-depth analysis.
I mean, it's an
That's
interesting
good stuff.
historical tidbit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's like that's some good stuff, really. For Lewis, you have the 70 finals averaging 17 points and 5 boards. In the 72 finals, he's 23 points a game and 5 assists. 73 finals, 19 points a game with 5 assists. These are all finals wins. He is, in terms of like the Pacers pecking order, it's below Mel Daniels, below Roger Brown, below
Below George
Nedelicki.
McGinnis in one of the
McKenna,
years.
yeah. And then Nedelicki for the
Um,
earlier years. So I'd say it's like, but the Pacers teams are pretty. The ABA is small. The Pacers are stacked. Lewis is that good though.
yeah, it's always funny to kind of look at some of these guys and be like, man, could they have done it in the NBA? What would they have been if they'd stayed in the NBA? And like Lewis gets drafted in '66, plays 32 games with Cincinnati in the NBA. It's 4 points a game, and then jumps to the ABA and is an instant sensation, an all-star, and kind of really never looks back. I don't quite know what to make of that. Is he your next guy? Is he the guy that you want to have for
He is my
263?
next guy. Yeah,
I
he
think
is my next guy.
I think that fits. Um,
I think the thing with the NBA ABA stuff is like the ABA was very much like roll out the red carpet for these guys. This is like you can get your shots. They're trying to build a product where the NBA is like very old guard. Like no, like you got to break into our rotation and like but with for Lewis, like is Oscar on those teams?
I can't imagine he's still there in '67. Is he there?
No, yeah, Oscar's
Yeah,
there.
he's still
Oscar's
there.
there until 69, yeah. I mean, so it's like you want to get minutes over Oscar, who plays like every minute of every game. Like, good luck, right? That's never happening. And so it's the smart move for him to go to the Pacers, who they need a lead guard, and he is that. And you know what? The Royals made a mistake.
Yeah, and like the ABA initially not as good as the NBA. That 68 season, I would not say they are as good. But like by 72, where he's still an all-star, and by 75, like I think the talent is pretty close to even when we get to 75, 76. Um, and the other thing that gets under discussed is that the ABA stole the NBA's refs. They just started
Oh yeah.
signing away the top officials, and so then the NBA gets like these really crummy officials, and that's why you have all of the fighting in the 70s. Is like people are like who is this ref? Like I don't respect him or care about, but him like they lost all control of the game. So the NBA gets to be a very ugly game, as the ABA has this fluidity and like beauty of movement. We might be going a little bit too hipster and hyping up the ABA, but
No, it's good. I think it's the right call. I think you're right in the ABA had the NBA had a couple things going for it. They had depth, and they had centers. They had the best
yeah.
centers in the league, and they had more teams, more depth. The ABA had, but by 75, like 76, the ABA actually had more of the top talent. There's less teams, there's less depth, but they had like guys like Dr. J. Looking at like my scale, which is always nice. Um, like 76, the top players like Kareem, Bob McAdoo, Cowens, Lanier, right? Centers, that's the NBA's thing. But
Mhm.
looking at like the ABA, they had Dr. J, Artis Gilmore, David Thompson, Dan Issel, Billy Knight was really good in 77. They have Silas, Bobby Jones, um, Billy Paul to George Gervin obviously was going to be awesome. Larry Keenan was going to be really good. You saw Don Boos win the 77 steal title and assist title, but he's in the ABA for this season. But also another guy, Marvin Barnes. Marvin Barnes is awesome. If he wasn't insane, if he wasn't like, fucking insane, that's another like really top guy. And like a part of like that's another thing about the 70s is like it's a weaker era, but a huge part of that is you had talent like Marvin Barnes do too much cocaine. Like you
Yeah.
just lost every like you had 10 stars, every 10th one had a drug problem, and that's a huge thing for Stern. Like we haven't talked about John Drew yet, but he's our small forward nomination. 86, he's the first guy suspended for life for cocaine abuse by Stern, and so like that's something to consider for that era.
Are you ready to talk about John Drew, or who's your nomination for 264?
260 for
Two
Drew.
sixty four.
Oh man, we're way behind. Let me check that. Yeah, 264. Drew, you're getting two All Star appearances. You're getting 20 points a night for his whole career. Um, I had a couple guys. I liked Carl Braun, but I wasn't sure what to do. I kind of tossed like the old school. Some uh some respect with Braun. He makes five All Star appearances after his 2 years of military service, after his 3 years of NBA play, and so I'm not really sure how many All Star teams he would have. He might have been seven-time All-Star. He might have nabbed those because that's he leaves and then they make the All-Star game. And then he comes back and he's an All-Star. So I imagine he would have been that. Um, where did you have Braun?
I had Braun. So my next two guys, he's in my next two. I had Michael Redd and then Carl Braun. Um,
Michael Red.
yeah, I think I just have a soft spot for Michael Redd. I think he should have been in more. He had the opportunity to jump to the Cavs and didn't take it, but he has just high level mercenary scoring in seasons. And at this point, I really want the production and from these guys. I think we know that Red could have been a number two or a number three somewhere, but from '04 to '08, it's basically 24 points per game. Um, as like the only guy in Milwaukee for these years, like he's kind of single. I mean, it's him and Mo Williams. Like,
Bogut. Bogut's there. That's
yeah,
actually an interesting point is I actually think the Bucks could have been one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference.
if Bogut had stayed
If
healthy,
Bogut and Red were healthy, but neither of them were healthy at the same time. Like by 2010, when Bogut makes the All-NBA team, Red is toast. He is
yeah,
completely cooked. It's 18 games that season. He played just 33 the year prior, and he's out of the league in 2 years. But let's say Bogut, because Bogut misses years, like destroying his entire arm, breaking his back, breaking his foot. Like he could not stay healthy. Let's say like 07, they're healthy at the same time. I think it's like a 50-win team.
Yeah, but the 05 team where it's him and Desmond Mason, not not going to be able to do it. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about Bogut being like a true superstar, or if healthy. But you just look at the other Michael Redd teams, or like 06, their starting five is Michael Redd, T.J. Ford, Bobby Simmons, Jamal McGlure, and Andrew Bogut. Does that inspire anything in you?
Not much. Here's a stat. In 2007, the Bucks win 28 games. Just in total.
Yeah.
When Bogut and Redd played, they won 22. 22 and 24 record with them both, which is about 500, and then miserable without them.
It's crazy because they played 53 games and 66 games, the two of them, just kind of not overlapping that season. But what I was going to say about the 06 year is they make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
A Jamal McGlure, a young that rookie Andrew Bogut, or was he there the year before? That's Bogut's rookie year.
05, yeah.
Bobby Simmons, TJ Ford at 22 years old is the starter. Like this team is being carried on the back of Michael Redd, and we don't find that many guys in this kind of area that can get a team to the playoffs. So that's my general thoughts about Redd. I'm not sold on it. If you had someone you're passionate about, I'd be happy to hear the case.
I'm doing research. Okay, so really quickly, Bogut had a 3-17 record without Redd. And then Redd had an 0-7 record without Bogut.
Mm.
And so like they just had to play together. Like if they didn't play together, they were I guess
They
that's
were
it,
really
missing
bad.
They're 3-20. Yeah, they're horrendous. And so it
Well,
speaks to the talent there.
it makes sense. You've got one guy who can captain the defense in the middle and protect the paint, and you've got one guy who is basically the only person on this team that can score. And without either of them, you've got no one who's going to play your backline defense because Jamal McGlure is not good. I don't care that he's an all-star. And then you don't have anyone else that can score outside of Michael Redd. So it tracks.
Do you want John Drew or Redd? That's kind of where I'm at.
John Drew
It's
or
all
Redd?
so close.
Drew, 10 seasons, averages 20.8 points per game, 7 boards, makes the playoffs 4 out of 8 times, leads the team in win shares 5 times. Him and Jason Kidd hold the record for most turnovers in the game at 14. And he's
Nice.
accused the league of rigging games against the Hawks because they just weren't a draw. Also,
Okay.
banned for cocaine.
All right.
Conspiracy theory? Maybe it's not the cocaine. Maybe it was the open criticism of the league.
Oh, little conspiracy theory stuff. For Drew, he's 8th in points per game in 76 and 7th in 77, then 12th, 12th, and 14th. He is one of the better scorers in the league, and he's playing games. Doesn't have the injury concerns that Redd does. Let's do Drew first, honestly. Let's do that.
A little bit longer. If we
Yeah.
take Drew off the board, I also kind of like to sneak Doug Moe in above Michael Redd. And just to be honest with you, it is very early ABA time, and it's pretty brief. But Doug, he's 29 when the ABA starts. 3-time All-Star just those first 3 years. He misses 62 to 67, so we can't really count it, but it's blocked because of gambling allegations that that shakedown that cost him, Connie Hawkins, and multiple others. I think Roger Brown was in there. I don't know. It's just he comes in.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal. He's in the MVP conversation in that first year, second in MVP in 68. Gets a few votes in 69 and 70, but not really a major consideration. Leads the league in points that first year, 68. I don't think anyone else has as high of a peak
Yeah.
as him.
Let's do that. So we have Doug Moe 265, Red 266.
Sounds good. That will introduce to the list Paul Seymour for the shooting guards, classic 48 through 60 player. And then for the small forwards, we're jumping all the way down to Luol Deng. I don't plan on discussing Luol Deng today.
I thought we were going to 300.
All right, I might discuss Luol Deng today.
we might get there. With that, I have Carl Braun next. It's
I think
an old
that's
guard,
right.
5-time All-Star, 2-time All BAA/NBA. He is consistently in the top 15 in points per game and assists per game. 3 appearances in the top 10 for points per game, along with 3 appearances in the top 10 for assists per game. He's also very efficient, in the top 15 for field goal percentage pretty often. So you have an efficient guard that could score, that could play make. Sounds great.
One of my favorite things about doing all the research I've done on basketball in the 50s and like 40s and 50s is the draft was still a thing then. And you start planning your season and like middle of December, like, oh, this guy got called into the draft and now has to serve 2 years. That sucks. And it would take guys off of teams. And I'm trying to remember who the Celtic was in 51 that got they were like, nope, he's too tall. He can't go into the draft. And the Celtics were like, because his draft number got called. They're like, oh no, we're about to lose. Let me pull it up. It was their. Who was it? It's like one of the historic guys this year. Maybe it was 52.
Macaulay?
Yes, it's Macaulay. He got drafted or like asked to report, and then they're like he goes and they do the physical and whatnot, and he's declared draft ineligible because he's over like a 6'6" or 6'7" limit, and they're like, yes, all right, we don't lose Macaulay. So just a fun thing about 50s basketball.
That's a very interesting wrinkle.
That's why you got to get the big men. That's why they're valuable. They won't get drafted.
That's true. Well, our next point guard after Carl Braun is Norm Van Lier, the 3-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA, and 8-time All-Defense. The best defensive guard you've never heard of. 8 is really impressive. That is, I don't know the exact numbers. I could find it, but I think it's in the top 10 for most all defensive selections.
I'm pulling it up.
I do it faster.
Wow. This race?
This is a race. He has 8, which is only 19 players. Only 19 players have done that.
Screw you, Wikipedia. You'll only show me the players.
Wikipedia. See, you don't even know how to get there.
All right. I actually do kind of like the Storm in case here. Another name that I'm just kind of looking at it would be Brooke Lopez.
I had
the Roos, though.
Yeah.
Do you have someone else? Are you a Paul Seymour guy?
No. I had Lopez next. Just really impressive longevity, and he's at first like a really good scoring big that is like the worst defensive big in the league, and then he just completely flips that around into this like 3-point shooting elite rim protector, extends his career by 6 years, starting center on a finals team. I think it's really good. I think I like it. What do you think?
I love it. I mean, I'm a Lopez stan. The evolution, stepping out, learning how to shoot threes. It makes me so mad that the Lakers in 2019 or the 2018 offseason, after having him on the roster and bringing in LeBron James, having the plans for LeBron, are like, we don't need this big who can stretch the floor and hit threes. And he goes and signs Milwaukee for $3 million. That's like pennies in the NBA right now. Just makes me mad that we lost him. I think it's a good call here. I think there's contributions to winning There's longevity. There is a peak where, like, we were talking the previous episode about Glenn Robinson. It's like, I mean, he provided you 20 points per game for 9 years. I mean, Lopez is pretty close to that. What is he? From 2010 to 2017? How many years is that? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? 19.5 points? Like, it's a great case. I almost wonder if we should have a little higher. Muted.
I think it's a great case. The numbers in New Jersey and in Brooklyn are a little empty. I remember I went and I found like Reddit, like not Reddit forums, because at the time it was just like basketball forums, like basketballforum.com, and people were just ripping it into Brook Lopez. They're like, Brook Lopez is the worst center in the league. Like, this guy's fucking terrible. And I think he ended up figuring it out. But as like the lead guy, the issue is if at the time Lopez needed to be 20 and 10, but he was a miserable rebounder. 7 boards per game in New Jersey in 32 minutes a night. Like, he really was a bad rebounder, and that kind of hard cap where the Nets were going to go. But nowadays, it's like, we'll get someone else to rebound. You just defend the rim and stretch the floor. It's less like you can have different guys doing different things and kind of finding different roles. And Lopez doesn't have to be like the bruising center, and it's much better for it.
How much of a conscious basketball fan were you in 2010?
I was not.
Okay.
I
So
was 9 years old.
the 2010 draft, the Nets, I forget if they had the best odds or if it was like this. Yeah, the Nets went 12-70 in that season, and they had the best odds for the number 1 draft pick, which was going to be John Wall. That was also the year that LeBron and everyone had this space, and the Nets had just deleted their entire roster, basically. Everyone was a free agent except for what was going to be Brook Lopez and John Wall. And that was like the odds-on money favorite when the offseason started to sign 2 of, or if not 3 of, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. And like I've always thought about how different all of those players' careers would have been if Brooklyn wins the lottery, selects John Wall. Because like the moment they lose that lottery, everything shifts, and there's like, yeah, we're not going to go play in Brooklyn. But it was Jay-Z has bought this team. They're now going to be the cool Nets. They hadn't quite moved yet, had they? No, they're still New Jersey, but they were going to move soon, I want to say. Maybe. Yeah, 2013.
They moved, 2013, moved to Brooklyn. And another huge piece is like when they make the Pierce and Garnett trade, Lopez getting injured is a huge reason why that doesn't work out as well. And maybe that's different too. It's like healthy Lopez, and that is a really good team. It's like that's a team that can make the finals or something.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Lopez with Bosh, LeBron, Wade, and John Wall? That
sounds great. Sounds like a really good team. And
that's
the perfect spot for Lopez, though. Is like, can we be the 4th or the 5th guy? And him being the best player. I mean, that's why I talk about like he was 20 and 10. It's like, really, it's like 18 and 8, and his team is the worst team in the league. So the Nets years I won't get too caught up in, but let's do Lopez. And that's 268, which brings in Rick Smits for our next center.
Right. Storm and Norman time?
Sounds good to me.
Storm
Norman leads the league in assists per game in 1971. He's the point guard that replaces Oscar Robertson in Cincinnati. Then he'd be traded to Chicago, makes a couple All-Star teams. You get about half his career tracking steals per game, and he just kicks it off with 2 per game, another season 2 a night. He is this crazy point of attack defender that facilitates the offense, much like guys you've already talked about, like Mo Cheeks.
And when he gets to Chicago, what's his first year in Chicago? 72. That Chicago team had won 51 games the prior year, but then they jump up to 57. And like they're a relatively new expansion team. It's him, it's Chet Walker. Is it Bob Love there? Or is he coming in a little bit later? Yeah, it's Bob Love. Like, that's a pretty quick establishment of a big three, and you've got kind of other guys to do. Chet's going to do the scoring, Bob's going to do the scoring, but you got a backcourt of Norm Van Lier and Jerry Sloan. And like everyone knows, Jerry Sloan is the Jazz coach, but Sloan also a 6-time All-Defensive player. Like that is one of just a monstrous backcourt right there to go up against. I like the placement. I think it's good. And getting him off the board introduces us to good old Jason the Jet Terry. Although I saw on TikTok he had a shooting competition with Kenny the Jet Smith for the nickname the Jet, and he lost it. So I don't know that we can call him the Jet.
Guess not. I guess it's Kenny Smith, who we don't have. I don't think we have at all.
Not yet. Not yet. There's still some better shooting guards out there.
Point guards. Oh wait,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I have Terry listed as a point guard, but at this stage, yeah, it's fine. He plays plenty of point guard. Plays plenty of point guard.
Yeah. I was thinking Kenny as a shooting guard, but no, you're right. Kenny is a point guard.
Kenny's a point guard. What are the?
We've got Jason Terry as a point guard.
It's 50. It's 51% point guard, 47% shooting guard for his career. So we'll say point guard for this exercise.
He's a point guard. He just had to play next to Jason Kidd. There are times when multiple people play the same position and they just end up on teams together. It's like DeJounte Murray and Trae Young right now. They're both point guards, but one of them is playing shooting guard. It's like when Chris Paul and Steph Curry play on the court at the same time. They're both point guards. It is what it is, folks. How did you feel about knocking off a couple of the older guys on the list? I think we're ready for Paul Seymour and Tom Gola.
Sounds good.
All right. You want to make the case for either of them?
Let me see. Looking at Seymour, 1955 champ. He's an all-star that year. In the playoffs, he's averaging 37 minutes a night with 12 points and 7 assists, which for 1955 is pretty dang high. We talked earlier about how, or maybe in the last episode, I forget, about how the points per game in the 50s, mid-50s are closer to 70 a game, 80 a game. Teams just aren't scoring that much pre-shot clock. Even post-shot clock, it took a second for like the panic to set in and the pace to just become completely frenetic. But you're getting three All-Star appearances, 2 All-NBA appearances. All-NBA is pretty hard to come by at this point. It's 2 second-team appearances in 54 and 55. Plus, you have his NBL days. He has 1 season in the NBL. It's interesting how like the Basketball Reference counts the BAA and that gives us the numbers, but the NBL stats it doesn't give to us. But that's another conversation. But it's pretty long career. 12 years from 48 to 60. You rarely see guys playing in the late 40s last until 1960. It's very rare.
And I want to say he makes those all NBA teams while it's still positionless. Yes, he makes it in 54 and 55. It's still positionless, which I personally love. I'm super excited that that's what we're getting back to, because it's kind of it really does say, hey, these are the best 5 players. These are players 6 through 10. Maybe not necessarily in order, but I feel a lot stronger about him having those than something else. Also, kind of just a wizard at the free throw shot. Like that 53 season, 53 in the playoffs. He shoots 9.5 free throw attempts per game and makes 95% of them. It is just a couple of games, but one of those games. You see the minutes played there?
I do not.
You got to pull up.
I missed it. I went on to Tom Gola. I was checking that out. Hit me with it.
Boston. He plays 67 minutes. It's a quadruple overtime playoff game in which he is out there. I believe that's the whole time except for a minute.
Is that the longest? The most minutes played in a game?
I don't believe so because there is the 5 overtime game. I think someone gets a little bit more, but he's out there the whole time. 4 overtimes. You want to know what the score was?
It's probably 90 to 89.
105 to 111.
Mm.
But
Most minutes in a game was Dale Ellis with 69.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many minutes did he play?
67.
67. Was that a playoff game?
It is quadruple
Okay, that's
overtime.
why it's not. That's why it's not coming up. Playoff games are weirdly not kept track of. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't understand why we don't.
All
Things,
right, give
but
us the
all
Gola
right.
case.
Tom Gola, Saint Gola, just considered one of the all-around players. There's a Philadelphia, plays from 56 to 66, five-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA in 58. He's a starter on the 56 championship team, but more of like the third guy, not quite in his prime as much. Um, there's some quotes. I forget what book I lifted this from, but many Philadelphians view Gola as the embodiment of basketball perfection, or nearly so. He was a local hero, their own Jack Armstrong, a defensive focused guard, while Johnston and Arzin handled the scoring. Just, I believe it was from Wilt 62, kind of explaining who he was, because him and Wilt beefed. He did not like Wilt's
No,
ball dominantness, showmanness. He's everyone's granddad's favorite player, and we don't
that's a
ask
good
why.
thing to have. Gola averages above 10 boards per game 3 times, and at 6'6" for the shooting guard position, that's pretty impressive. He also led the league in triple doubles, 1960 with 9, finished with 20 on his career. So the all around stuff is very much there. It's 11 points, it's 8 boards, and 4 assists. While while Johnston handled the heavy lifting, and Gola was kind of the dirty work guy, and they got a title out of it and some other good stuff.
Yeah. With those two shooting guards off the board, that brings up Jeff Hornacek. But I'm kind of still ready to keep it a little bit older. Are we at Rudy LaRusso time?
I think so. I think it's time. It's been long enough.
We talked about the Ivy Leaguer with muscles earlier. Kind of, he's with them in Minnesota, with the Lakers in Minnesota. Transitions to Los Angeles. God, I wish the Lakers had a better big man than him for a lot of that 60s period, because the Lakers probably get a championship. But he's their power forward. He's like a 13 and 10 type of guy. 13, 17 point 13 to 17 points, to 8 to 10 boards. Um, but he did kind of talk at one point about the expansion that happened in 68 and 69. Like, if he had wanted to go to one of those bad teams like a Bob Love did, or like Bob Kaufman, he could have and been a 20 points per game scorer. We see him when he gets to San Francisco, jump up to 20 points, but he really just cared about winning and being on a team that had a chance to win. So that's my
Lo-
case for Ruluso.
Locking him in at 271.
272.
Who's 271?
Gola,
Gola. That's right. That's right. That's right. We just talked about him. Okay.
Seymour,
Think.
Gola, LaRusso.
All right. My next pick is our center. It's Rick Smits.
Ooh.
Look, who's our next power forward? Next power forward is Vin Baker. Not a bad pick. I had to convince you of Baker on our power forwards list. I imagine you're not super excited about him, but I know you're a Smits guy. I know you're excited for that. With Smits, I just want to know, like, these Pacers teams have a ton of talent. And so you're not going to see these dominant stats, but you're going to see playoff wins and pretty solid production. For example, in the 1995 season, the Pacers win 52 games. Come playoff time, Smits is averaging 20 points a night, which is second behind Reggie Miller. And this is just really stacked Pacers teams with Reggie Miller, with Smits, with Mark Jackson, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, Byron Scott. Like, there's plenty of talent on this team. It's why they're able to make the conference finals. But I think Smits is the second most important Pacer over the Reggie Miller years, at least
I think you're,
while they played together.
yeah. I think you're right about that. I think during the 90s, he's the second most important pacer. Um, I don't love some of the playoff of numbers. So there's times where he's dropping, and like Reggie just takes over the Pacers offense. But I guess he does also have 95 where they go they make that deep conference finals run, and he's averaging 20-7. He also had some really big games in there. Let me, I know I have them pulled up. I wasn't quite ready to talk about Smits. It's the day. I thought we were going to have him kind of the start of next the 76 through 30, but um, we we can bring him up. All right, where's my games list? All right. In 98, they go 7 with the Bulls. Indiana wins game 6 by just 3 points. Rick Smits delivers 25 points on 11 for 12 shooting. Reggie Miller, 2 for 13, just 8 points.
Man,
Now, Smits does have a bad game 7. Not going to try to
can't win
sugarcoat
them
that.
all.
Yeah. But there's a number of times where he'll have, like, him and Reggie will kind of alternate good games. In 99, and he's got a rough game 5 against the Bulls, going 4 for 14. But then in game 6, he goes 9 for 18, 20 points, whereas Reggie is 3 for 18. Rough night for
Is,
Reggie.
is that against the Knicks in the conference finals?
Yes, sorry.
Hmm.
Wait, I've got his 99. Who is that? Against, let's see. 99. Yeah, it's against the Knicks. Sorry.
Yeah. You have 21 playoff series played in, a finals made, 5 conference finals appearances, 15 points a night, and 5 boards. Definitely not the rebounder that you may have wanted, but they were able to get Dale Davis, Antonio Davis, the Davis brothers to make up for that while Smits kind of spaces the floor. And that's part of why the Pacers are such a dangerous team. With Reggie, with Smits, you had such a balanced offense, such like so many places they could attack from, getting to the
Mhm.
basket or finding these guys like Smits on the perimeter and Reggie curling around screens and stuff. And that's how they managed to pull off all these playoff runs.
I want to say one of the things with Smits is he is kind of their bailout option. And like that's the thing you kind of see with a guy like Kobe or a guy like Carmelo or even Jordan. Um, when the offensive set doesn't work, you just give it to this guy and let him try to hit a tough shot. Pacers' offense was let me run around and get Reggie Miller open. If Reggie's not open, let's hit Rick in the mid post and let him hit this tough fadeaway. And he does that fairly well. And he's for a man shooting from the mid range a lot, pretty good true shooting. I mean, we're looking at 55% true shooting on his career, above average for most of the years he's in the league. Are you sure you like him over Vin Baker? I had Jeff Hornacek, Vin Baker, and actually a few others in the power forward and shooting guard categories over him.
Interesting. That's interesting. I do like Smits. I feel like with Baker, I know I gave the Baker case because he has these all NBA selections. He has third team and the second team, and at this point, that's pretty
Hmm.
hard to find. His stats are really nice. When you're looking like 20-10, they run him into the ground and his knees fall apart. Um, he could be talked into Baker just as like a more dominant force play at the same time, and Baker certainly is more well regarded in terms of accolades. But would you rather go Baker?
I just think peak wise, I mean, what do you want to say? Rick Smith's best years are kind of in that what do you want 95 to 98, those Smith's best years. And then if you look at Baker,
Yeah.
it's actually those same 5 years. And like over those 5 year stretch, Baker is 20-10 or 19.7 and 9.6. And I think Baker is just a higher level. It's really hard to compare accolades because of how deep the center was, but I just think I think Vin is a better player. I think we kind of see it in how much his team needed him, how much his team played him. Because the other thing with Smits is like you had the Davis brothers, and there were just times you didn't need Rick Smits as much. You'd rather have the screen setting bigs, and so there'd be, yeah, he's getting closer to 30 minutes a night. You work in and out, but depending on what your
Okay.
need is.
Okay. So we'll go Baker at 73.
Baker at 73. Do you have any interest in Antoine Jameson or Jeff Hornacek?
I do like Hornacek. I do like Hornacek. I feel like his game just fit in so well as like the perfect third guy. Like He's going to get you buckets. He can facilitate the offense, and you could see that in the conference finals he makes with Phoenix in '90 and in '89, and then his trips to the finals behind Stockton and Karl Malone as that third guy. Like you really see that come to fruition. And he's not the first option. He doesn't have any like crazy scoring seasons, but I think he knew his role and played it incredibly well. Kind of mistake-free basketball. I'm down for that.
Do you like him above Smits, or because I
Not
could be talking to
really.
Smits over him? All right, all right. Let's lock Smits in at 274 then. And how do we feel about Jeff as our 275? Is there anyone else that you feel passionately about? I mean, the names on the board: Jeff Hornacek, Antoine Jameson, Luol Deng, Jason Terry, and our next center, Billy Pultz.
I do like Billy Pultz, and I think Pultz could be a nice option. With
Okay.
Pultz, you're getting 4 All-Star appearances. You're getting a block title for the ABA. In the 1974 playoffs, they win the championship. He's 15 points, he's 9 boards, but also like plays for a long time, plays until
Hmm.
1985. That's 1,100 games. It's 15 years. And part of the reason the 81 Rockets make the finals is that Tomjanovich gets hurt, and then Paul steps in and steps up to 12 points tonight, 7 boards. And it gives them like the added boost they need to make this crazy finals run. Um, but statistically, you're looking at like from 71 to 79, all with the Spurs. It's 15 points and it's 10 rebounds. He played in a total of 27 playoff series and 3 finals. Um, in the 74 finals themselves, he's 15 points and 10 boards. In the 72 finals that they lose, he's 19 points and 14 rebounds. So you have some pretty good production there. By my scale, in the ABA, he's ninth in 76, eighth in 74, and 14th in 73.
It's a good case. I like it. Um, I'm just gonna tell you my case for Jeff Hornacek. I'm not upset going with Billy Pulitz at all. Well, because I've read the quotes the last couple times we've discussed him, but basically everyone's like, "Yeah, I thought I was better than Billy," and then Billy just outworked me, outsmarted me, out hustled me. There's Bob Ryan talking about how Billy just threw around Dave Cowens like he was nothing, and he's like, "Man, I dismissed the ABA without a hand." Like, and then Billy showed me I was wrong. Um, the Jeff Hornacek, like before he gets to Utah, they alternate between the seventh best offense, fourth best offense, fourth best offense, seventh best offense. He gets there and they become the second best, first best. Like he really does take them up a level. Um, from his fourth year on to the end of his career, he's hitting 41.2% of his threes. Just a really high efficiency 3-point shooting. Now there are some things that aren't great. Some pretty bad finals performances is in the late part of his career, but he is also a 20 points per game scorer. A couple of years in Phoenix, 109 career win shares, 1,313 true shooting added. Just like the scoring efficiency over the course of his career is really high and really good. I don't think anyone else has had that high since we talked about since Kiki Vandeweghe. So it's a lot of scoring. He receives All NBA votes in 6 seasons, although is never named to the All NBA team. It's kind of funny because he's like never an All Star. He's gets one All Star appearance, I should say. Um, but like that's kind of the midpoint of the season, and then as guys start to fall off, he's consistent. He's always there. Muted.
I'm sorry, I'm doing more typing than usual, and so I mute myself. By my scale, Hornacek was 16th in 92 and 26th in 96. Mm, I really do like Hornacek because of what you said. That secondary or tertiary scoring and playmaking behind Stockton and Malone just completely unlocked those offenses. Those are some of the best offenses ever. They're not like flashy and run and gun. They're just like Karl
Mm-hmm.
Malone pick and rolls to death. And it's really effective. It's why they're making the finals, and the West is no joke. Um, man, it's tough. It's tough. I feel like with Paltz, it's hard to differentiate what's going on between him and Dr. J and the Nets, because that's where he's coming from. Against San Antonio in the ABA, it's pretty good. Like, you get the block title. It's a 50-win team. They go head to head with Dr. J's Nets in the first round. Then he plays for forever. What do you want?
I will say with Pulse, there's a decline in the NBA, but the decline in the NBA also happens kind of gradually. Like, he goes from averaging 16 points and 10 boards in the last year of the ABA to 15 points and 8 boards the first year in the NBA. That's a pretty small little drop. The next year he's basically right on par. Then as he hits 30, it starts to decline. So I think his NBA decline is more gradual. I can see them both as the same type of NBA players, which is like a high level, high value role player. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Let's go with Pulse. Let's do it.
All right.
I think Pulse,
Sounds
the
good.
ABA, a little bit greater of historical longevity. And to have Bob Ryan, I'm going to actually pull up and read the exact quote. Because I really, Bob Ryan, just huge Celtics bias homer-y guy. Okay, so, if he's going to talk about Billy being good, it's worthwhile. But he said, I considered Pulse to be just another, considered Pulse to be just another nobody ABA center. But he showed no respect for Cowens. He rebounded over him. He scored on Cowens. I saw that and said, what is this? I also started to wonder if I dismissed the ABA too quickly. Bob Ryan has a fundamental shift in how he views the ABA, not because of George Gervin, not because of David Thompson, not because of Julius Erving, but because of Billy Pulse.
I respect it. That's a great quote.
275.
275. All right.
Aaron, where can the people find you?
Possible chairs on
Oh,
TikTok. Possible chairs on Twitter. What?
You were trying to stop me. You wanted to read the list, didn't you? That's how we usually
No.
end these.
Sure,
No?
I'll read the list.
You don't want to read this? 251 through 275.
1 second. My parents just got home. The dog's going nuts. All right. 251, 275. World Be Free, Horace Grant, Andre Iguodala, David West, Mookie Blaylock, Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, Antoine Walker, Charles Oakley. 260 is Vlade Divac. Then Alvin Adams, James Silas, Freddie Lewis, John Drew, Doug Moe, Michael Redd, Carl Braun, Brooke Lopez, Norm Van Lier. 270 is Paul Seymour. Then Tom Gola, Rudy LaRusso, Vin Baker, Rick Smits, and Billy Paltz.
Excellent list. Now, where can people find you?
Possible chairs on TikTok, possible chairs on Twitter or X, and this podcast all the time.
Find me, Nate_Hoops Temple on Gmail. Nate_Hoops Temple on TikTok. Also, email us hoopstemple@gmail.com. Please, we need takes. Getting this deep is kind of no man's land, a little bit of a Wild West. Tell us what you think about the list.